Let me introduce to you the Director of Education for the Learning Bitcoin Conference and the Bitcoin Evangelist for Bull Bitcoin, Pablo Saxtron.
Yo! Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for everybody that followed me over from the Byzantine Generals. We just had a mind-blowing experience, so allow me just to relax. And we're going to do something a bit more approachable, but thank you to everybody who helped me out in the last one. We're going to continue now with more of a general approach to what I call Bitcoin evangelization, Bitcoin evangelism. We're working on the title. But basically, this is my 2.4 of this type of presentation. I am working for Bull Bitcoin as a Bitcoin educator, but in a previous career, I was a fiat educator, so I've moved from teaching into Bitcoin. I don't have technical knowledge. I wasn't very good at computer science, but Bitcoin is a subject that will fix the money, but I also believe Bitcoin is a subject that will fix education. So I want to be able to bring this subject to be able to illustrate how we can teach differently. But we're not doing it yet in Bitcoin. So this is basically the mission that Bull Bitcoin gave me, and let's delve into it. So I call it Evangelization 2.4, hacking education through conscious participation. Sounds fancy, but what I'm going to do, I did have them in a second. Let's do some conscious participation real quick. So I'm going to hand out these little tokens, which were attack and retreat a second ago, but watch this. This is how teachers work. We flip materials into anything you need. I'm just going to make sure that when I'm speaking, you guys understand what I'm talking about. If you understand and it's clear, you put up the green. If you got a question or somebody next to you also doesn't understand, put up the red throughout this entire presentation. I want to confirm understanding with you. As Bitcoiners, we often talk loud, fast, and quickly and in detail, but we're not taking the time to make sure people understand this. Number one obstacle in Bitcoin education. So I'm going to hand these out right now. You're responsible for the little village here, okay? So if anything's not clear, just raise a red. Okay, so that was step number one. Everybody good so far? Where are my colors at? Everybody good so far? Let me see the green. All right. Okay, perfect. So now I can check in with my room if I'm at a meetup or any type. Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down usually works as well. But basically, sometimes people don't like to be like, yo, I hate to interrupt, but I don't understand. People ain't going to do that, right? It's an ego thing. We all feel a bit shy, and especially if you're new and you don't know a lot about Bitcoin. But just by this simple gesture, you can even discreetly do it, right? And if I see a sea of red, I got to stop. All right. Next concept. Synaptogenesis. I spelled it wrong there. I want you to turn to your neighbor and just tell them the word synaptogenesis. Do it right now. Tell your neighbor, Complex word. We'll come back to this one. But this way you can meet your neighbors. You know, we can break the social barrier. You get to interact with your neighbors a little bit. Another thing we can do at meetups, right? Next thing we're going to do is called think, pair, share. Super simple. A lot of teachers use this type of activity. We're going to go through a thought exercise individually, and then as a pair or a three, and then we're going to share with everybody else, okay? So this is the way that I'm not just transmitting knowledge to you guys. You're thinking, you're sharing, and we're arriving at something together. So we're going to do this with Bitcoin education as our subject. We're going to think about it, we're going to pair up, and we're going to share it. So this is what I'd like you to do. I've never done this, by the way. We'll see how this works, but this is my first exercise at doing this. I'm going to hand out little bits of paper and a pen. And on the blank side, not the line side, the blank side, I want you to draw a triangle. Is that good? Is that good? All right. Everybody's good. So I'm going to hand these out. It'll take 2 minutes if somebody wants to help me. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, if you can hand those out, one to every person. And if somebody else can hand out some pens, thank you. One to every person. Sometimes the pens don't work. They're super fiat pens. They're pretty cheap. But if you need another, just let me know. And I'd like you to draw a triangle on the blank side of the paper. I'll give you like, I'll just see when everybody's done there. Try and draw it as big as possible. Sorry, I should have told you that. If it's small, don't worry. This is just a little sketch, so I'm not going to pin it on my fridge back at home. You don't have to impress me, but just draw a nice big triangle on the back of that paper. Thank you. Some of the pens don't work. You might have to get a new one. If you're drawing on a hard plastic surface, it might not work. Maybe on your knee worked for me earlier. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, just a quick thumbs up. We'll do the thumbs up as well. That seems to be working better. Who's drawn the triangle? All right. I want you to put your hand in the air. Put it over your shoulder. Tap yourself on the back. Good job. I love these little teacher things. They're fun. So yeah, we got a triangle now, but you're wondering what's going on. So if we jump to the next one, I'd like you to put, oh, excuse me, Jack. He's not there. If we could get this little thing out the way, I'll do it. If you can divide your triangle with these types of lines, so a line here, a line here, a line here, and a line here. So thank you. 4 horizontal lines. And at the bottom, a little vertical line. So your triangle should look like this. One big triangle with 5 lines, 4 horizontal, 1 vertical. Quick show of thumbs when we're all done. I can see some eyeballs, so that's usually a good sign. Okay, great. You're wondering what the heck is Pablo getting us into? What is this going to? But basically, I kind of describe this as like a knowledge triangle in Bitcoin. These are the different levels of learning, and I feel that everybody's on this triangle somewhere. We've got like, there are newbies, right? Noobs, people who are new to Bitcoin, and I divide them into 2 categories. The people who are curious about Bitcoin, and the people who are skeptical about Bitcoin. So those are our 2 learner groups right there, skeptics and curious people, but they're both newbies. So they're at the bottom of this knowledge triangle, right? But there's a large amount of people in there. If we jump up a little bit, we have people who trade crypto. They might have a Coinbase account. They might have their 401k in an ETF. They might be a trader. They might have, be using cryptocurrency, but not quite got the self-custody or not quite got the Bitcoin-only part, right? So this is the next layer. And then above that, we have the maxi. So somebody who's Bitcoin-only, the pleb, who kind of like runs a node or whatever, they have some skin in the game in the network. And the hodler, they've had Bitcoin for a long time. So above that, what I would consider even more skin in the network is a developer. They're actually contributing through their skills into the network to improve it, make it better. And then above that, who do you think we have? Teachers? Satoshi Nakamoto, yeah. I mean, like, some people yeah, but who's better than a dev? We devs know everything. No, like, Satoshi was up here, but actually Satoshi, I got a problem with Satoshi, and it's his famous or infamous quote, if you don't have time to understand it, I ain't got time to explain it to you. It's misquoted. A lot of people think Satoshi didn't want to do education. It was actually because he was repeating himself on a forum, right? He was talking about lightning scaling. But there's not a lot of people in this. And in fact, one thing that I find as a rule of thumb is the further you are up this triangle, arguably the worse you are at teaching, right? So it's not an insult. The more you become a specialist, the harder it is to be the generalist and answer the bigger questions without tunneling into specifics. And that's quite normal. But I'd like you guys to think right now, where are you on this triangle? Where are you on this triangle? I'd like you to put a little dot where you are. I put a dot right here because I'd consider myself in this section. I've done the Bitcoin part, I've done the node part, but I went to BitDevs the other day, I was so lost. Yeah.
Can I have a quick explanation of a pleb?
Yeah, sorry. Can anyone explain a pleb, actually? I'd like to hear what your definitions are, yeah.
Just somebody who's an enthusiast about Bitcoin, but not necessarily a maximalist, but love technology.
Yeah.
Just, you go do your crap, whatever
That's it. Yeah. Can anybody give me the origins of the word? Do you know where it comes from? Plebeian?
Being a field worker and like, hundreds of years ago, the plebs were out there doing the work.
Yeah, the regular people. It's just the regular people. It comes from the Roman Empire. The plebs were the non-elite, people who didn't have a position of power. So I'd put myself in this group. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to choose if you're a maxi, a pleb, or a hodler. Just where are you on the triangle? So put a little dot. All right? Has everybody done that? You put a little dot where you are. This is a thought exercise. I want you guys to actually do it. So put a dot where you think you are. I think we got a lot of people in this room who are going to be around about here, but we're also going to have people all the way up and down, possibly. Unless Satoshi joins us, like you got a dot. So yeah, next I'd like you to think about Bitcoin education. I'd like you to think about the last person you spoke to outside of this event, but the last person you spoke to about Bitcoin when you were in the position of being an educator. Really think about it, because I want you to have a concrete idea in your head of what happened during that conversation. It could have been a meetup. It could have been just in the street. It could have been the Uber driver. Yeah. It could have been a member of your friends or family. Think about the last time, the actual last time that you were speaking about Bitcoin to somebody who wanted your knowledge and you were in the position of educating them. Now think where they are on this triangle and put a star. Put a star where you think they were at. All right. Okay. So this is what happened. I put my star and my dot. This is my friend Sam on the left. Sam's super cool guy. He works at a place called La Patente, which is a reparation cafe. So it's like a maker space that repair stuff. And we were having a conversation about Bitcoin, but mainly about like macroeconomics and globalization. And he spends a lot of his time repairing things. And one of his things was, why does it cost less to buy a toaster than to repair one? And like, we talked about Bitcoin a little bit, but it came around to an economy question, like after like, well, Bitcoin fixes the money and like da-da-da-da. Eventually we got down to this situation. He was asking me why does it cost more to repair a toaster in Quebec, where I live in Canada, than to just buy a brand new one. So I started getting into supply chain and macroeconomics and supply and demand and all of these things, but I felt kind of ill-equipped, right? I felt ill-equipped. And it was because of this thing. I was higher up the pyramid to him, but there was something going on, and it was this. Anybody know electrics in there? Anybody can describe this? Resistance. Amazing. Yeah, this is what resistance looks like in terms of electricity. So I always like this question because somebody can usually get it in the room. This is the symbol for resistance, okay? So whilst I was transmitting this knowledge to him, along the transmission line, there was some resistance. I didn't quite have what I needed to tell him why it was cheaper to buy a toaster than to repair one. But it relates to Bitcoin, and I should have been able to do that. Here are some of the points of resistance. It can be that you're short on time. The Uber driver, who said Uber driver? You probably ran out of time, right? Might have been a factor. Some tech issues. I run into those. Bull Bitcoin has a wallet, but it's only on Android right now. So as soon as I start talking about, hey, you should strike up a wallet, I have an iOS. Okay, we'll move on to different. It becomes a sticking point. Resistance. Some of the materials, some of the on-chain fees, and some of the facts. Now, in my situation, I didn't have the facts about the macroeconomy and reparation and like how China manufactures cheaper than Canada, and that's why the shipping and everything. I was a bit lost with this thing as an educator. And basically, the line from here down to here was experiencing resistance. So I'd like you to put a line from your circle to your star. Just draw an arrow from the circle to the star. And I'd like you to put a little resistance symbol next to it. Sorry? If they weren't? Sorry, I can't hear. They were not resistant, they were receptive, and everything went well? Raise up your hand. Hand over the shoulder. Pat yourself on the back. no, no, I'm joking, but to come back to, if we go back, there was something on this list that you were doing exceptionally well, that you had at your disposition. It might have been something that's not on the list as well. You might have had a really good rapport with the person. You might have done a lot of background reading. You're both teachers. Okay. So there was some like excellent... Okay. So there was some things that you're doing really well to limit the resistance, and that was your acquirement of communication skills and your what we call pedagogy, right? You appreciate the art of teaching. It was probably, I don't know, it might have been that. But either way, whatever the resistance or smoothing of resistance is, I'd like you now to turn over the page and just have a think about what were the limiting factors of you educating that person. What was getting in the way? What do you need? What would you have wished to have had at your disposition? I wish I had a load of stats and facts. I wish I could have quoted percentages and GDPs, but I couldn't do that. I was in a cafe and I was just trying to help.
I got a question. What
Yeah.
do you consider, like, okay, so if time was a factor,
Mm-hmm.
at what point was it a failed educated time?
I wouldn't say this is the problem with the term orange pilling somebody. Orange pilling is very binary, right? Did you succeed or not? Did you orange pill or not?
Okay.
Orange pill is a bit of a misused term because when were you orange pilled?
Right.
Was there a before and after, like the light bulb moment? I like that. So the orange antibiotic. Exactly. So there was probably, you identified yourself to that person as a Bitcoiner, which is like, cha-ching, you did that well. They know you know about Bitcoin. But then how you went about your objectives, there was probably something along the way that didn't achieve 100% your goals, but you probably got something done, right? There was probably some wins along the way. But I don't care about the wins because you're already doing it. I want to focus on what we can do to remove some of these friction points, right? So try and think about the problems that you experienced along the way and draw that little arrow in. And on the back of your page, just write down some notes. All right? And basically, for the next, how long I got left, Tristan? I'm over.
Yeah, I think wrap up in 5.
Wrap up in 5. Okay. We'll just have a little bit of a conversation now. I'd like you to turn to the person that you said that magic word, sign up to Genesis to, and I'll have a sidebar. Yeah.
Interrupt again. You can absolutely continue the conversation, and we have AV available in another building.
Yeah, well, I'll wrap up with something that'll be a follow-on to this anyway, and it's called my education clinic. These are your waiting slips. I'm going to be like the doctor in the waiting room. You'll come to see me and tell me what your friction point was, and I'll hopefully smooth it out a little bit. That's what we're doing. We're diagnosing some of your education pain points. But basically, I'd like you just to turn to the person you said sign up to Genesis to earlier, and just explain to them the situation. When you were the teacher, what was the friction point? I'll give you 4 minutes, 2 minutes each. 4 minutes on the clock. Let's go. Okay, I'll just give you 20 seconds to finish up, guys. 20 seconds to wrap up. Okay. Thank you very much for your conversations. I appreciate that. If we can wrap it up in 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you very much. Okay, so I hope you had some productive conversations. The point is that we don't get to the bottom of everything right now, but you started to have this kind of critical thinking about how do I educate people, how do other people educate, and what are the barriers that we can start to identify, because it's great to look at how awesome we're doing, but it's even more productive to look at what are we not doing right and how can we lean into those pain points. So let me just jump a little bit forward. This is what I try and do in Bitcoin. I try and bring in this word I mentioned earlier, which is pedagogy. Yeah, which is the art, science, or profession of teaching. It's quite rare that something is an art and a science at the same time. But as a teacher previously, I want to kind of bring a couple of my previous skills into Bitcoin. And what I'm going to offer is, at Learning Bitcoin, we kind of piloted a lot of workshops and things, and I've been trialing one out earlier. What I want to do is try and hack education, right? I want to find out different ways that we can orange pill people, this weird orange pill, through conscious participation, tracing new neural pathways. So today we've done like a little activity, which is educating about Bitcoin education. You've talked with each other, we've had a structured conversation, and we've moved through. You can do this at your meetups. This is a good way to do it. I have different types of workshops that I've designed that will hopefully be resources for you. I'm going to be holding a little clinic after this meet. I'm going to find a little table somewhere, and I'll sit down and I'll write Bitcoin Clinic on a piece of paper. And if there are things on your card that you'd like to come to me and we can discuss about, then we can go through all of that, and I can try and find some resources, or we can brainstorm together, or we can work things out. So for the rest of the day, I just want to sit down and have like a drop-in clinic. And this is your diagnosis ticket, okay? These are the things that aren't working with your education right now, and I'd like to be able to work them out. I might not have the answer, but this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to have the conversations about how can we level up. So I'd like to thank you guys all very much for joining me at the Evangelization 2.4 talk. I'm going to hand over to Drew, and come and see me. I'll be hanging out with the clinic. Thanks very much.